Going fishing. See you later. Bye.
So hello and welcome to another video. You probably can't tell, but I'm smiling right now. I do have to apologise for the dappled sunlight through the trees, but it cannot be helped. And now if you take a look over my shoulder, you'll notice that most of the leaves have dropped off the trees now. We are in mid-November and them temperatures have dropped dramatically, and the news around the lake has changed as well. The fishing is really hard going at the moment. However, when I was last here in this swim, we did notice that already starting to take effect. Now it was 5 weeks since I was last fishing, and it was 7 weeks ago since I was last in this swim. So I am a little bit out of touch, and I have got a session to talk about later. But for now, you know, it's moving on. It's quite late in the day. It's actually Sunday at the moment, and my midweek ticket starts at 12 o'clock. So obviously I arrived at 12 o'clock today. So I haven't had that first light walk round like I usually have. So I am quite eager to get going. However, I am in the helipad swim and I am familiar with a couple of spots out there. One in particular to the left where I had the common off last time, and I'm also going to stick to the spot that I was fishing on the right hand side, just because I know it's got form, that spot. And the middle one I'm going to rove about a bit. Now, because bites are few and far between, obviously we're going to have to address things which we did on the last session. You know, it was cutting back on the bait. I didn't really change what I was doing, and that is the plan this time, although one rod is going to be different. I am going to fish one rod on a big mesh bag approach, and no freebies around it. High vis pop up or high vis wafter on that one, but we'll talk about that in more detail. And the other two rods are going to be fishing exactly the same as there was before. However, I'm going to hold right back on the bait. Usually, you know, when I'm topping up the spot, I go out with about 6 medium spawns, but that's literally what I'm going to be starting off with on this session, and we're just going to have to feel our way in. I have had a look round on this side of the lake. There's a few members on the other side of the lake, so I didn't really want to go around and disturb them, so I've stuck to this side. However, I did want to be up in Luna just because of what I seen on my last session here, and I did lose a fish out of there. That's what we've got to talk about. However, this is still a good option, you know. You'll notice the sun's beaming down into this side of the bank, and moving into winter, this part of the lake always gets the sun first off in the morning, and on walking around, it's the only place where I have seen the odd fish in the reeds. Now, they are really hard to find at the moment, and the only place I have seen them is literally right in the back of the reeds between me and Midwest. So, you know, with that in mind, I'm not in a bad position. I feel like we've got half a chance. The fish have just got to be obliging. Anyway, I am waffling on, and we'll talk about the tactics as we always do, and we'll have a little bit of a catch up as to what happened on the last session here. But for now, I need to get them rods out there, so wish me luck, and we'll catch up in a bit. Well, as you can see, darkness is well and truly set upon us. It's only been a couple of hours since I got the rods out. It does move in quick this time of year. It's just gone 5 o'clock now and already complete darkness. But getting the rods out was quite a smooth process, to be honest. The left hand rod and the right hand rod, you know, I had them spots marked out, just 6 medium spawns of bait over each of them. And then the middle rod I've gone slightly different. I've put it in that clear channel which is out towards the island, 9.5 wraps that is, and then just a mesh bag on that one. But we'll go through that in a lot more detail tomorrow. I'll talk a little bit about the bait and things like that. I know it's the same as what I was using last time. I don't like to keep repeating things, but for those of you that are new to the channel or new to the video, I will briefly go through it, but I'm not going to go into mega detail like I normally do. So yes, I'm sitting here now, you know, in anticipation of what may come. I really do think I'm going to be up against it to scratch a bite out on this session, as it really has dropped off dramatically. I mean, for the last 5 weeks I've not been down, and if I'm being totally honest, I am a little bit out of loop as to what's going on around the lake, especially of what's been going on for the last few weeks anyway. The last person I did speak to was Kenny Dorsey, and that was a couple of weeks ago now, and he was telling me just how hard it was and how the lake was fishing, and in particular that week there was only 4 fish out that week, a couple of small ones as well, a 17 and 18, a 20, and then the biggest being 39, you know. So it really has shown everything, just how much it's changed. Kenny, you know, he's been struggling, so I mean, we have got about my last session to talk about, but I'm going to leave that till tomorrow, because I cannot wait to get my tea on. I'm absolutely starving, and I've got a couple of nice lamb steaks and some new potatoes and some Brussels sprouts as well, going all out. You know, I've got a bit of cooking to do, so at least I've got something to do whilst we're sat here in the pitch black. But you know, I've done my bit on the old fishing front. And I think what we're doing is the right thing, you know. I mean, that middle rod, you know, it's a bit of a test of that, really. I mean, that's normally how I sort of migrate to as the water temperature drops and you're fishing for a bite and things like that. And obviously I've got them spots, and I know them 2 spots are good spots. That left hand spot is the one where I had the fish off last time, and I know that right hand spot's done fish before. And the key is at this time of year, really, it's not whether or not they're going to feed or out like that, it's them key windows which you want to be looking out for. and really the things I look for is the weather conditions more than anything. If you've got the right weather conditions and then you find them and you're in the right place, you know, it's just aligning everything up. And as it goes, we've got quite good conditions. You know, we've got a nice low pressure in, and the temperature's going to remain consistent. No dramatic ups and downs, which is what you really want. The only thing I don't like about what we've got over the next couple of days is a lot of rain. I know previous sessions on here, when that rain sets in, it seems to sort of knock it on the head, but I don't know how that will affect things, because obviously with the change in the weather conditions, you know, it's a lot colder now, and them dark nights set upon us. Maybe it might bring a couple of night bites, we never know. But one thing's for sure, I'm feeling really positive about what's gone out there and about what I'm doing. It's just whether or not them carp want to oblige and give us a tug on that old string. Anyway, since I've been sat here, I got the rods out and then I put the kettle on, and then my phone just started going absolutely crackers, and I forgot that my latest video was just uploaded. It was scheduled for 4 o'clock today, so for the last hour my phone has been going berserk, which I absolutely love. A lot of comments coming in, a lot of, you know, thumbs up, likes, messages, you know, it keeps me busy, and usually I'm sat at home when this happens. I don't come fishing on a Sunday, but you know, things have changed for me, and you know, I can only come when I can come, which is part of the reason why I haven't been for such a long time, you know, just because of changes that's happened in life. My circumstances have changed and it's made it a lot harder for me to get out fishing. So, you know, the videos are going to be few and far between, and it's a bit uncertain, but believe me, there is a lot still to come, you know, and as we speak we're in another lockdown, but at least fishing's still allowed, and I'm so pleased night fishing is allowed as well. But the elite match was cancelled, so unfortunately that won't be going ahead, as competitions can't go ahead in this lockdown. However, all is not lost, because I'm in on the December elites. It's a bit of a smaller one, that it's just on Pepper Lake, so I have got that up and coming. Hopefully this lockdown is not continued and that can go ahead, so we've still got something positive to look forward to. And not only that, I've just arranged a social trip for Christmas as well, but I'm not going to talk about that just yet. I'm going to keep that as a surprise, because there could be potentially a few big fish in that, to a place which we've had a few Christmas socials before. So yes, I really am waffling on now, and I just can't wait to get my tea on, so I'm gonna leave it there, and hopefully it'll be a catch up in the morning. Wish me luck. Well, good morning, and it is looking rather grim out there, I must admit. However, looks can be deceiving, and the conditions are still prime for it, you know. This was expected, you know, got a nice low pressure, overcast, the wind's dropped off a bit, but on another bonus as well, the rain's holding off, so we've got the conditions without the rain, which, you know, is a positive thing on here. But I've not got a lot to report on, you know, especially on the carp front anyway. You know, really not seeing any activity at all from the carp, and I've been to and from him this morning, looking in the back of them reeds, and the fish that I seen in there yesterday I've not seen today. I did hear a possible in the middle of the night, You know, when you hear a clatter in the distance and you think, ooh, that didn't sound like a bird. So there is that, but that's the only thing I've really picked up on. I mean, I cast it back to it last night. I turned in pretty early. It was around about 8:30. I went to bed 9 o'clock ish, and I got up a couple of times in the night, but you couldn't see anything out there. It was a real dark night, so you know, I couldn't really sit there watching or anything like that. But because I went to bed early, I was up rather early this morning. I was up well before first light. I was up about 4 o'clock, to be honest. And I just couldn't get back to sleep, so I sat up, had some porridge, cup of tea and that, like you do, and it did give me a chance to watch the lake come to life this morning. I mean, I like to do that anyway, but I don't normally get up that much before first light, sort of thing. I just couldn't get back to sleep. But anyway, and then a sort of like half an hour or so just before it was starting to get light, the rudd was rather active out in front of me, which I took taking positives from that, because last time I was down I didn't see that activity from the rudd when I was last down, and the fact that there was active out in front of me, I felt quite positive about that. If they're active and mooching about and obviously feeding, the carp have got to be on that same wave path. It's just things are really starting to change. I know I keep saying it, but it really is starting to shut down this place. Now, the other reason why I've held back on, doing this morning update is because I wanted to speak to a couple of other guys that I knew was coming down, and in particular Kenny, he's filled me in on a couple of fish that's been out, and Paul as well, he's turned up today, and he's filled me in on the weeks that have gone past that I don't know about. It can be like this place, if you're not coming here, things are not really shared. There's a lot of secretive guys on here, so to speak of. But there has still been the odd bite coming out, nowhere near like it has been. But one capture that did surprise me was twin scales being out again, 50 pound and 4 ounce. And Kinky Back's been out a couple of times, and Kinky Back's a mid-40, he's always around 44 pound-ish, and incidentally he was 44 pound both times he'd been out. So, there's not a lot to report on. I mean, I spoke to Kenny, he's been struggling, he's been doing a bit of time out over in the back there, saying that this end of the lake's been rather busy. And the information I was told is that the fish have been coming out of Luna, and then the swim next door to me as well, Midwest. Now, obviously I knew that the fish was in that weed bed anyway. I mean, even when I was last down fishing, although I went in the Luna, I did clock fish in this area, and then the time before when I come and fished in here, I've always clock fish in that area. They're definitely like in the back of them reeds there. It's a big thick weed bed out in front of them reeds, and then right in the back of the weeds it is fairly shallow there, but it does get a lot of sun. When the sun pokes through, especially when it's like this, that's the first bit that gets the sun, and you can only imagine that part of the water being a lot warmer than elsewhere. But for me, there's lots of places them fish can hide in here, so many different weed beds, and a lot of areas of the lake that do offer sheltered areas, or away from the cold wind and that kind of thing. So the fish are definitely not grouped up. That's one thing I can establish from what the information I've got and from what I've seen. It's not like most lakes where the fish start grouping up for winter mode. The fish are still spread, and it's the odd one here, the odd one there. So I do feel confident on that front that at some point you are going to be covering a fish or two. It's just waiting for everything to align. It really does become a lot harder this time of year. You're not only you're waiting for the key times where they want to feed, everything's got to align, the weather conditions, getting the spot right, finding the fish. It's all things that you've got to take into consideration. And when there's so many places they can hide, it becomes really hard. I mean, especially trying to spot the fish, you've really got to put that extra mile in, put the legwork in, and move around the lake and keep searching. I mean, you could take a more mobile approach if you wanted to, but I know them fish are still visiting this side of the lake, and when you look at the captures that have been out, you know, it all indicates to the area that I was thinking already. But you know, I'm pretty confident that I'm doing the right thing, and I'm confident that I'm in the right area. But I am happy with the presentation and the spots that I'm fishing out there, you know, and I do feel confident that if these fish are going to feed, I think we'll have one, you know, 6 bombs of bait over the left hand rod, the right hand rod, and then just fishing a mesh bag over that other rod. I mean, part of me's sitting here thinking, should I put a little bit more bait in, you know? I mean, everybody seems to be just fishing for a bite sort of thing at the moment, and with the conditions that we've got, I'm thinking they might be up for a bit of a munch, but I'm not gonna, just because you can put it in but you can't take it out. I'm gonna wait until I see something, you know, to change my mind anyway, or at least indicate that there's a fish in the area or something, you know. I think what I'm doing's right for the conditions that we've got and for what I know. So, you know, it's just a matter of time. Long periods, you know, when you move into these dark nights, long periods of inactivity and sitting in the darkness, and then all of a sudden you could just have that 10-minute window where it all changes and it comes to life, you know, and that's what we're looking for at this time of year. So I'm not going to do anything dramatic, just refresh the rods and sit back. Anyway, I'm waffling on now as I usually do, but you know, I've brought you up to speed as to what's happening and the knowledge I've gained from the other anglers as well. So all's not lost. Well, the rods are out there, and as we say, it only takes one bite, it really does. But for now, I'm going to get some dinner on, and then I'm going to sit back, refresh the rods after I've had some dinner, sit back, and then we shall have another catch up later on, hopefully with a little bit of something to report on. That'd be a real bonus. But for now, it's wish me luck time. Well, as you can see, it's dark o'clock and it's raining. I'm gonna have to be quick, but I've not long had my tea and I was just about to speak to the camera and the left hand rod was away, and I've got an absolute beauty here to show you. A mirror, £37 10 ounces just gone, and it's completely took me by surprise because I was about to put the camera on and just say how inactive everything's looking very, very bleak and miserable, and then out the blue the rod goes. Sometimes your name's on them, isn't it? It really is. But anyway, just check this out. Whoa. There you go, look, check him out. Don't know how well you can see that. A real fat, deep set fish. Not a long fish, he's not very long at all, but he is heavy and he is fat. Gave a good account of himself as well, really, but it was only a matter of minutes before he was in the net. He come straight up to the surface. The lead ejected, did its thing, straight up to the surface, and then it was just a matter of playing him over them weed beds. And I'm bloody pleased as punch that he's gone in the net this time. And I did mention I had a little bit of a rig change, so I will go through that in more detail. But for now, let's just admire this creature. Oh, and there's the other side. You can't tell very well, but he has got a few distinctive scales along his back. And a couple round his gill plate. He appears, from what I'm looking at, he appears to look rather pale, but it's not like that really. He's got quite a bit of a yellow belly under him. Just picking up a few bleeps on the other rod. The wind's really picked up with this rain that's come in, and I'm gonna have to address that. Anyway, I'll just get him up one more time. And there you go, look. Another quick look before I slip him back. He's made me a very happy boy indeed, especially when I really thought this was going to be a blank. Oh, so pleased. Let's slip this baby back and then we shall have a catch up. If not tonight, it'll definitely be in the morning. But for now, oh, I just want to admire this little beauty going back and then get that rod back out there. Well, good morning, and would you look at it out there over my shoulder right now. It looks absolutely prime for a bite. We're just gone 9 o'clock, and believe it or not, it's a total different contrast to last night. You know, whilst I was doing the video with that fish, it started raining, and the wind really did pick up, and to be honest, I had a bit of a ding dong doing the pictures. The interval meter that I use for doing the self takes, the batteries had gone flat, and when you put new batteries in it, you have to reprogram it all. So I thought, to hell with that, put the fish in the margin in the retainer, went and got Ken from next door, and he did the pictures for me. And it was pretty good timing as well, I might add, because the heavens really did open as we was doing the pictures. So anyway, I slipped that fish back, and it's part of the reason why I'm only speaking to you now, because I still needed to get that rod back out there, you know, and it was pitch black out there, couldn't see anything. So, you know, I was using the head torch, put the head torch on the bank stick, aimed it up to the spot. You know, when you've got it on your head, you sort of block your vision and things like that. It's good to have a spotlight if you've got one. And that's what I ended up doing. It was a little bit tricky, but I got it back out there. 2 casts it took me, so I didn't make too much disturbance. But after the disturbance of the fish, you know, I wasn't too worried, and I even went out and put a little bit more bait in as well. 4 medium spawns back in there, and to be honest, I am so pleased. I mean, when I got the bite, it made me jump out my skin. I really wasn't expecting a bite. Being totally honest, I thought it was going to be a blank this session. So, you know, I really am thanking the carp gods. Thank you very much. And a banging fish to boot as well. But it's told me a lot, that capture, you know, especially when you look around the lake, how it's been fishing. I mean, I've got a better picture now to fill the gap in for the period that I've not been here after speaking to the other members, and it really is tough going. And not only that, Gareth popped round yesterday. He wasn't fishing, but he popped round and had a chat to me, and he's been doing a lot of short sessions, so he's been coming and putting pre-bait in places, and incidentally he's been putting some bait in on this left hand side over here. It's not the spot where I'm fishing, it's sort of under the tree, a lot closer into the margin. Now, prior to him putting bait in and coming back and checking the spots, all the spots had been cleared off, but there's bait still under that bush, you know, so it just goes to show that it's not all getting eaten. And not only that, I've seen coots coming up with it throughout the duration of the session, coming up with boilies in the beak, so God knows how much bait's left there. And you know, I've got to thank the carp gods, you know, again, getting a bite not far away from it. It's 8 yards away from it, that spot, although it's, you know, classed as open water and that's classed as the margin. It's a million miles apart, I suppose, when you look at it in that perspective, but it could have quite have easily gone the other way. So, you know, if anything, I was more confident on the right hand rod. I said that on the last session in here, and it was the same this session. But, you know, having the form that I had on the left hand rod last time, you know, it's the one that's gone again this time. Now, which really says a lot about the baiting approach that I took. You know, I stuck to my guns. I'm still using the same bait. I'm still using the same presentation, a snowman presentation, but I've just held back a bit. And I think really as well, you know, it is different to what a lot of other people are doing in here. I mean, I don't really know of anybody else still using particle. I mean, predominantly it's a boilie only water, this place. It does well on big amounts of boilies. And moving into this transition period, you know, people start using crumbed up and things like that. I mean, there's a lot still, you know, fishing accurately and things like that. I mean, I mentioned before, you know, I've not seen anybody else spomming on here, only one other guy. So, you know, there is guys using a baiting pole, you know, which is a lot tighter and a lot better than which I can present it. And you know, to be honest, I wish I had a baiting pole, but unfortunately I haven't got one, so I make best with what I have got. But, you know, going back to that, I am still putting a bit of particle in. There's still them small items in there, and there's still a few bigger items. And I strongly believe, you know, well, that makes a big difference, or it certainly seems that way to me. And, you know, it gets, like I mentioned, the roach were bouncing around yesterday morning, bouncing off the spot and things like that. And I believe it just makes that much different. It really does make a difference, in my opinion. Great creating that bit of activity, and then the carp come in to investigate, and then you've got all them pre-soaked boilies in there. It's exactly the same mix. In fact, it's the bait I've got left from the last session, you know. I always take the boilies out the freezer, I put them in the bucket, let them thaw out, and then I pour kettle water over them, and I let them sit in that water for 24 hours before I drain it off and add the particle. And I'm using the tier 1 mix again. Now, I wasn't totally convinced that was going to work, which is half the reason why I put that mesh bag out there. You know, always going through this transition period, moving into the colder parts, and then especially into winter, I always tend to evolve into, you know, PVA bag fishing and the micro mix that I use as well, and stepping away from the high oil, you know, ingredients and things like that. I mean, even the food liquids and that I put in there, I always go to the beta lin, which, you know, you guys might know it as beta stim. I buy that in bulk from BAF, you know, so I've always got that in stock, and it always comes with me through the winter and through the colder sessions. I mean, I know it's not winter yet, but we are transitioning into that, and you know, I've had a lot of success on that, and that was the reason behind putting that out there, you know, just to see whether there was still having a bit of a munch up, or whether it is a one bite tactic only. But I think we've proved that that's not the case. So I have got another session planned on here before I think it's going to totally switch off. So all is not lost just yet. Fingers crossed, maybe one of them lumps before we actually move on elsewhere. Now, we're talking about moving on elsewhere. I did mention that, you know, I've got another elite coming up and things like that, and pretty much all December takes me away from this place, so I have only really got one more session left down on here for this year anyway. As for next year, I'm not too sure what I'm going to be doing in the winter. I'm not really sure if I'm going to stick it out on here. I think it could be really hard going and a lot of blanks, you know. I like to try and keep them bites coming in, so we may possibly rove around a bit and just pick the right weather conditions to come here, but we'll play that by ear. That's just a little bit of, you know, my thoughts as to what's going to be happening, you know, moving through into them colder months. Now, I did mention, you know, I was down here 5 weeks ago and I fished in a swim called the Lunar Swim, and incidentally it's the first time I fished that swim, and it commands a good body of water, that swim, and I was down for 48 hours, you know, and already, even 5 weeks ago, you know, it was pretty much the same story as what's happening now, only there was a few more bites, you know, a couple more fish coming out here and there, and I was quite fortunate to get in that swim. I spoke about this before, you know, I've always wanted to get in that swim, but it just so happens that every time I get here it's always been fished. I mean, it's been fished on this occasion as well, but, you know, I managed to get in there, and I already had a good picture in my mind as to, you know, what spots other people was fishing, where the bites were coming from in that swim, and I ended up fishing 2 rods next to the pads and 1 out to the far margin, and I did change that throughout the duration as well. I actually brought it into the margin where I seen a little bit of fizzing, but, you know, I did mention it was a pretty tough session. I had 1 bite that session. Oh my god, and I was devastated. I had the fish on for a good 5 minutes or so. I played it away from the pads. I got it across like the main thick body of weed, and then brought it into another weed bed. And at this point, you know, the fish was on the surface. I could see it. It was an absolute banging fish. You know, it was a big fish. And then it took a massive surge back into the weed bed, and oh, that was it. I felt the hook pop out and I left with my tail between my legs, I tell you. I mean, I was recording and I've got some B-roll for you which I'll put in after this clip, but oh, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. When you see them like that and you know it was a good fish, it was definitely a 40-pounder, and then you lose it, oh. And around the lake as well, you know, there was one other guy that had, in fact, Brian, he had a fish that session. He had a little Harris at 46 pound, you know, and that's all the bites that I know of that which come from that session. And oh, I was devastated. It still cuts me up thinking about it now. So I suppose that fish last night really did make up for that. However, it doesn't soften it, and it don't make it any sweeter, not really. So that brings me on to you know, the rig change. Now it's not a massive dramatic change or anything like that, and it's actually through talking to Brian, one of the other members. He's been using the Gardner Convert muggers, which are a curved shank pattern, and he's told me he's not experienced any losses. Now I've had 3 losses now fishing the wide gapes, and not from the same company neither. You know, I started off on the Corda wide gapes, then I moved over onto the PB Products Jungle Hook, which is a wide gape, but I thought that shorter shank, you know, would really benefit. But then I still had a, you know, I think when I I still lost another 2 fish after making the switch, and I'm thinking to myself, I really am missing the trick here. So I've gone back to a curved shank hook, and the other little difference that I've made is I've put a rig ring on instead of a piece of silicone, so there's a lot more movement on the hook. I think you need that when you fish the curved shanks, you know. So that's, like, you know, that's the biggest change that I've made on the rig front. I mean, the fundamentals is exactly the same. It's still the jelly wire in 25 pound, you know, it's a stiff coated material, it's still 7 inches long, and I've not gone in on the Gardner hooks. I've actually got the new power curves from PB Products. I mean, you know, it's a given, you know, I'm really liking their stuff at the moment. There's a lot of good stuff. I mean, I've been using the materials for quite a long time now, and it's only just recently that I've started using the hooks, and I'm quite impressed with them. The thing that I like about them, they're a real strong gauge of hook, but they're not as thick set gauged as most hooks, you know, and you find with the thinner gauge hooks, you know, they're not very strong, whereas I find PB hooks, you know, are slightly better than most on the shelves at the moment. I mean, Brian did show me the Gardner hooks that he was using, and he showed me the Continentals and the normal version, and for me they're still quite a thick gauge hook, and well, need I say any more? I don't like a thick gauge hook if I can get away with it. So that was the reason behind going for that hook choice, and it has worked. Pleased as punch, you know, that fish was nailed, it wasn't coming off, and hopefully, you know, we've put that to bed now, and we can land every bite that we hook. Now that pretty much brings us up to speed as to what's happened and what's happening and things like that. But I've still got another 4 or 5 hours left of the session. I mentioned it's just gone 9 o'clock now. I plan to pack up around 2 o'clock this afternoon. With these conditions, it'd be rude not to stay if I can. However, I would like to stay another night, but I just can't, unfortunately. But I have pre-warned the missus I'm going to be late home today, so I'll sit it out for as long as I can. Now I tell you something, you know, my video went live at 4 o'clock on the Sunday when I got here, and the response to that video has just been absolutely amazing. I just can't get over the response from it. I mean, I checked this morning, it's not even been live 48 hours yet, and it's done over 4K views, and the amount of comments and messages that's been coming in, it's just been overwhelming. In fact, I spent quite a lot of time last night, you know, sitting on my phone replying back to everybody, and it's just, it's brilliant. That's what really does it for me. And another thing as well, which I forgot to do on the last video, was do a shout out for a good friend of mine actually. It's David Brown. He watches all the videos, always comments, always contributes, messages me quite regularly, and incidentally he's actually booked a tutorial session next month with me. We're going to Fenland Fishery, but you know, he wants me to do a shout out for his son Zach. So Zach, if you're listening mate, a big shout out from me, and a big shout out from your dad as well, and no doubt I'll be filming him on the next session. And he's been telling me just how enthusiastic you are about it, and how you're learning bits and bobs from him, and I've seen some of your fish captures, and I wish you all the best of luck mate, I really do. So from me and Passion for Big Carp, I hope you catch that banger, and we might even teach your dad a trick or two. I awoke pretty early again this morning, well before first light. I got up for around 6:30. and I was watching the water and thinking, with these conditions, you know, I'm surprised I'm not seeing anything. But that said, I have seen a carp this morning. Well, I say a carp, I didn't actually see the fish, but the reeds to the left, and I mentioned this, you know, I didn't see any fish in them reeds, and usually it's a banker spot that for seeing fish in them reeds, and I haven't seen any fish in them reeds over there for the duration that I've been here. But I was sat watching out this morning. It was around about 7:30, first light had just broke, and I seen the reeds part of a fish going in. I couldn't actually see the fish, but it definitely was a fish. I seen the reeds part open and them shake, you know, that telltale sign. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, that's not too far away. Come on, the carp gods. And with seeing that, it really did give me a boost of confidence. So, you know, all I did was sit on my hands, have a bit of breakfast, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Just sit on my hands, watch the water, and see if anything materialises. And we shall have a little bit of a catch up before we go. So bye for now. Well, that is it, unfortunately. You know, it's come to that time. I've hung it out for as long as I possibly can. It's just gone 2 o'clock now, and as you can see, it's threatening to rain at the moment, so it's a quick pack down. I've already started doing a few bits, but as always, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I appreciate the support. It really does mean a lot. And until next time, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you then.